It struck the eyes of my head. Don't even
One, two, one,
care
two.
if I
Check.
drop dead.
Okay, so we are back. We are back.
So you had me see.
Okay, so I'm going to slide out of that. Okay, we take two. Now, black people killing black people. I've got a few notes here. So, why are black people killing black people? Why do black people tend to ignore black on black killing, but when a white person kills a black person, all hell breaks out? Marches, riots, demonstrations. Think about that one. Think about that one. Why do black people tend to ignore black on black killing? We could have 100 black people being killed by black people, but when a white person kills a black person, we're up in arms. Is there any truth in that? I'm looking at the Zoom to see whether or not it's an agreement or disagreement. Why don't you hear of white on white crimes? Sharon says the last one was true. Why don't we hear white on white crimes? Why do we only hear black on black? Possession of knives. Why do so many people, particularly the black youths, carrying around knives? Like I said, is the knife thing a UK thing? And is it a gun thing in America? I don't know. You tell me. Music. Wow. Talking about music. The BPM. Is music an underlying factor on black killing? Because for those of you who don't know what drill music is where basically it's like a gangster music, where different gangs go on there and sing about their trials and tribulations, threats to other gangs, what they've done, how much blood they've spilled, what they used, how they used it. And you could go on YouTube right now. You could go on YouTube right now and listen to all these gangs talking about what they've done, what they're threatening to do, what they're going to do. And YouTube allows it. YouTube allows that to go on. I should say that a lot of these videos, YouTube videos, have millions of hits, and obviously YouTube are making money out of it. Is that a factor? Why do YouTube allow gangs to threaten one another? How they kill their rivals, unedited. When I upload the video from the BPM discussion, BPM debates, and I upload it, it goes through an editing phase. It scans the music to see whether or not I'm infringing in any copyright, and then there's a big a long list regarding hoping that my content doesn't include anything foul, abusive, sexual, blah de blah de blah. Long list. And if it infringes any of that, it won't be posted or it will be deleted. They're hypocrites. They're hypocrites because you go on YouTube, listen to even pop videos. Forget about the gangster thing. Even pop Cardi B. Anybody heard a Cardi B song? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But yeah, is music, drill music in particular, an underlying factor why there are so many black youths being killed out there by black youths? Court sentencing, are they enough of a deterrent? I personally don't think so. Okay, what else have we got here? It says here, this is in the United States. In about 80 to 90% of cases, the black victim was killed by another black, and about 52% of murder victims were acquainted with their assailant. Black homicide rates are 7 to 8 times of those of whites. Blacks have a rate of poverty only 4 or 5 times that of whites. Today, homicide is the leading cause of death among black men and contributes significantly to the shortened lifespan of black male. The black community in particular is in dire need of homicide prevention centres with programs of prevention, research, the treatment. And a London Assembly calls for a commission on knife crime in the black community. This was in 2000. This was exactly 1 year, in 2022 in February. Black crime. I'm looking at the chat. Emmanuel says, with any race, ethnicity typical when someone outside the community harms one within the community, they vent their frustration openly, as opposed to, what's that word? Inthranic? I think you might spell that wrong. Intrathenic killings, which is dealt with more discreetly. That's universal. Black people's value system has been a point of debate for years. Some would say self-hate is the answer pertaining to the subject. Colin Bell, why is there so much uproar when the authorities take a black life, but when one kills, we are quiet? Okay. So basically, if you wish to have a word, you wish to have a comment on what is going on in the black community, black on black killings, please raise your hand, let me know. I'm very, very interested to see what is your thoughts out there. Have you experienced black on black killing within your family circle, friends? What was the outcome where they found? We have our first caller. Carol, I've sent a request for you to be unmuted. Carol.
Hi. Yeah, hi there. Can you hear me?
Absolutely loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, okay, one of the first things I wanted to say is that we use this term black on black killing. Yeah, I think that we need to move away from that. I think we need to say knife crime, gun crime, gang crime. But I think when we say black on black killing, personally, I think that's a narrative that's sort of put out there by sort of mainstream media, the police, you know, whoever, because it justifies, or it helps them to justify the bad policing practice that they commit in our communities, i.e. with stop and search and the way that we're dealt with by the police. Yeah, I mean, crime is crime. Yeah, lots of white people commit crime on white people, but we don't hear about white on white crime. Why is that? It just doesn't fit the narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I brought it up earlier on. You just don't hear of it, do you?
No, you don't. You don't. And when you go to places like, I don't know, Glasgow or other areas, other regions within the UK where we're not that much representative, it's you know, white people are stabbing white people, white youth stab white youths. You know, I mean, I think in the London area, most definitely there is a problem, and I think that needs to be addressed, because I mean, I looked up some figures today, and it said that of these, I think there's almost about 60% white people in London that identify as white in London. Yeah, and they commit they represent 35% of murder victims, whilst there's only about 13% of black people in London. and then they make up 44% of murder victims. So there is a problem there.
100%. I mean, you say London, but obviously, I mean, I could go to Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol. Yeah, areas of high black population where there clearly is like a massive, massive problem.
Most definitely, you
And
know.
and what do you think about? I mean, just mention those several cities. Uh, do you feel that there's a problem? Because if you look at most of the prisons in those particular areas, there is a vast majority of them are young black men.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean,
And
you
why
know,
is that?
I mean, I can only, I don't kind of go outside of London very much. I mean, London is where I'm based and where I've always been. And I mean, I've kind of concentrated, I've kind of mainly looked at the problem in London. I mean, personally, I work in schools, yeah?
Mm.
I work in primary education, all right? And I do believe that we need to start there, yeah? Because we have loads of children that are groomed now, you know, particularly with all these county lines and stuff like that. And it's starting at a really, really young age, yeah? I mean, this is a massive problem now. You know, when I speak to some young people, I say, what's the answer? Because I think we've had these debates, yeah, year after year after year. And like you've said before, or others have said in the chat, you know, there is an uproar when things happen. So we talk about it, but then nothing seems to happen after that. I think we actually all know why the problem occurs. It's not just it's multifaceted. There's different reasons, you know. It's political, there's it's structural, it's you know, about poverty. There's many reasons, you know. But it starts, I think we have to kind of go back to basics, because I think things have been allowed to sort of run riot. We've taken discipline out the home, and you know, this is sort of what we get. And like I said, you know, that's not the only answer. There's many answers. We had debates, I think, what was it, last week or the week before, about absent fathers. Yeah, that's a big thing, you know, because a lot of these boys who get groomed into these gangs, they don't have any male role models to look up to at home.
I believe that is also a big factor. Children, especially young black males, they need that stability. They need that fatherly input. They need the fatherly words of wisdom. I know that. I mean, I've got 3 children under 10, and I know that when mummy talks, there's one reaction, but when daddy talks, there is a completely different reaction. And yeah, to be honest with you, 100% that is a factor. Obviously, in many cases, there are very justifiable reasons why there are a lot of single parents out there with their children, and it's a situation that just seems to be ongoing. It just seems to be ongoing, with no real conclusion, which is
Yeah,
something which obviously need to look at.
but this is it. So what is this? I mean, how do we, because I'm kind of really concerned about the how do we make a change? How do we, you know, get together and begin to kind of solve this problem? I know it's obviously going to take a long time, but I'm just kind of fed up of all the talk all the time, and then nothing really happening after that.
To be honest with you, this is an ongoing issue, not only with this particular subject, but many subjects within the black community.
For
We've been
sure.
we've been talking for years. I mean, the Stephen Lawrence thing. There's still repercussions going on from then. The Tottenham riots, which I remember very clearly, as somebody in the mid-20s. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be any conclusions or any solutions, or have we made any advancement? This is the question. Have we, as a community, made any progress in general? What do you think?
I do think we have made progress, because I mean we have broken through some glass ceilings, that we are in spaces that we never used to be many years ago. So there has been progress, but I think when it comes to, I think with our young black men in particular, there is an overrepresentation of them in the, they're all caught up in the criminal justice system.
Are you disappointed with our young black males?
Well, yes, but I'm not necessarily blaming all of them. I'm looking
Yeah,
at
obviously.
I'm looking at the societal problems that's created, the issues that we have now. And that's why I says, yes, we can think up sort of local initiatives and stuff like that, to start helping ourselves. But the wider, I think we have to also look at the bigger picture, and we have to look at the policies that we've got in society. We've got to look at housing. We've got to look at all those various structural issues, that are there. And I mean, I don't know how we begin to challenge those things. I really don't. So yeah, it's a little bit disheartening, really, when you talk to it and we speak amongst ourselves, because we just seems to be sort of going round in circles, and we just don't know what to do anymore.
And you said that you work in primary school. I've got 3 children who actually go to primary school. What is your feeling about the young youth and their future? Can you see, as a teacher, early troubling signs on certain individuals?
Oh
Do you
God, for
think?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, most of us in schools will probably, the answer would always be yes to that, because we see the kids that come in, and it's quite obvious some of them, they come from very disadvantaged backgrounds. A lot of them have poor parenting, or there's poverty, or a multitude of problems that's going on at home. Yeah.
I mean, even from a non-teacher's point of view, I could look at certain parents, and I know of certain parents at my school that my kids go to. Clearly, these parents are quote unquote inappropriate, and clearly, some children are a reflection of their, again, quote unquote, parental skills. How do you arrest that problem? I mean, it's a very difficult situation, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with great difficulty, because some parents just don't want to engage. For them, they send their children to school. It's the school's job, or as a teacher's job, to educate their children. And whatever's going on, they expect us to solve the problem. Sometimes they just don't want to. They don't want to accept any responsibility. They don't want to, they pass it on to the education system, and that's, I just don't think some of them realise. And often they're victims of trauma. They're victims of, things that have happened to them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
their own life. So yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The problem is it's not a simple problem.
No, I hear you loud and clear. I'd like to thank you for being the first caller this evening, Carol.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you very much. Keep in tune. Thank you very much. Okay, so Denise, I'm going to come to you in a few minutes regarding what's going on in the chat. Like I said, if you want to come on next to have a conversation on the BPM debate show, then raise your hand or message me or just let me know. Carol Wilson Thrift, I did see your hand up initially, but it's gone down again. So while you're thinking about coming on and saying your bits, I want to show you a video that was sent to me today, which is very appropriate. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So this is going to be about county lines.
Night after night, they made their arrests, closing down 77 county lines gangs. They found weapons used to terrify and manipulate young people and seized drugs worth over £1 million. Police figures show that every year the numbers of arrests and lines closed almost doubles.
What that shows is actually we are increasing our ability to identify county lines and to actually identify those individuals who are responsible for those networks. So I don't think it's right to say that there's more county lines out there today. We can't say that for certain, but what we can say is we are getting better at identifying them.
It was a county lines gang which targeted Nicola Whitaker when she was just 13 years old. Her young life became one of violence and crime as she trafficked heroin from Brixton to Scotland. By the time she was 17, she was jailed for 4 years.
I was often fighting, I was often in conflict with other young people throughout South London. And it got to a point where I've lost friends due to violence from knife crime and gun crime. So for me, that's the worst that I've seen, is loss of life before my eyes.
In the week-long police operation, officers arrested 222 people, 105 of whom were subsequently charged. £600,000 in cash was seized, along with 5 guns and 51 weapons, and 177 vulnerable people were safeguarded. Those children and young adults aren't treated as criminals by police. Instead, they're supported by rescue and response services and charities like the one Nicola's been running for the past 3 years.
We need to teach these young people skills after school. What happens when these young people leave school is this is the breeding ground for groomers, but they don't have the knowledge to steer away from them.
So we need to warn youngsters not to get involved, we need to reduce demand, and we need to reduce the pressures on families who are under pressure from a cost of living crisis, because that isn't helping either. That's feeding into this and making it more likely that youngsters will feel they need to earn money to support their families.
Meanwhile, police forces say they will relentlessly pursue those responsible for county lines, bringing them to justice for their abhorrent crimes. Carolyn Sim, ITV News.
Okay, so that was regarding the county lines, which is another avenue of black on black killing, gangs controlling certain areas, and anybody infiltrating literally pays the price with their life. I also want to show you okay, let me share the screen again. Do that, and we're going to share the screen. Where's that information? It's right there. There you go. Right, okay, so today I received a call from a lady who is part of Word for Weapons, Yvonne, I think her name was, and basically they who are Word for Weapons. Word for Weapons is a leading UK weapons surrender charity that places knife bins in a number of UK towns and cities. They also offer a range of educational services, including training for youth workers, awareness sessions, and a range of useful resources for schools and young people. Word for Weapons is a Christian charity established in 2007, and we have won many awards for our work over the years. Tens of thousands of knives and guns and other weapons have been voluntarily surrendered in our knife bins, and with your support we will continue to collect many more, thereby helping save lives in the community. Now, this is, I should say that at the moment these bins are, if you look closely, they are only within the M25 at the moment. Obviously it is a charity, and obviously due to funding they are quite restricted. So at the moment all the knife bins are there within London. If you want to know exactly where those bins are, you feel as though this might be useful to one or two individuals within your circle, then I'm about to drop that link in the chat now. So that is the Word for Weapons knife locations that is predominantly within the M25, and that is from Yvonne. Okay, Denise, let me unmute you. You could unmute yourself, actually. I've sent a request for you to be unmuted. In the meantime, anybody lined up to have a chat, then please let us know. In the meantime, Denise, good evening.
Good evening, Harvey. Good evening, everyone.
Excellent.
Yes, we have Rosie here saying that there are grown men involved in drugs that target and groom children when they go out to play. Before the children know it, they are involved in a situation they can't get out of. That's what Rosie had to say. And I think she's probably right to an extent, Rosie. We also have Allison spoke about media outlets constantly report knife and gun related murders without any focus on what the actual solutions are or the root of the problem, which has an impact on all within society, irrespective of your age, ethnicity, race, religion, gender, location, or sexual orientation. She goes on, she speaks about in the video Access UK's managing director and co-founder Nana Agüemen delivers a 15-point action plan aimed at decision makers, influencers, and stakeholders alike, highlighting the key solutions to counter serious youth violence from grassroots. And she also talks about Access UK is a self-funded organization that needs your help and assistance to continue delivering or innovative community-based solutions. I'm not sure who these people are, but yeah, there's an organization out there, she's saying. Shiran said she fears the next generation because all these young Black men with their bad behavior are now having their own children. What on earth are they going to teach them?
I mean, do you think, regarding that particular point, when do we actually break the cycle? Because obviously, if you got parents who are not exactly living the life that they should be leading, and obviously children pick up on their parents' bad behaviors, where do you and how do you break that cycle? It seems as though it's, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's a very difficult cycle to break. What do you think?
My opinion, it's a hard cycle to break, and we have to basically look at systemically what's happening in institutions. We know that our children are facing this disparity of violence, being victim to violence or being the apprehender or the accused. It's difficult, and it is polarizing our community. I see Allison also said that she had an uncle that was murdered, which is devastating. And many people that you speak to, people of color, Black people, can tell you stories of people that they know, family or friends, being victimized. And I think Carol is right that it starts from very young. We need to get school boards involved, teachers involved, social workers. There needs to be a holistic treatment across the board to what's been happening in our communities with violence, and it's all across the world. And we just need to follow the data, quite honestly, DJ Harvey. We just need to follow the data. It's proof that it's there. It's not being made up.
And that data, that data, where does the problem lie? I mean, the data that I've seen is not in the favor of our young Black brothers.
No, and the data lies in, we have researchers that are gathering data all the time for governments. The analysis has highlighted that the driving factors behind young people becoming involved in serious crimes or victim to serious crimes are lack of opportunity, deprivation, and inequality.
Mm.
So those are the things that need to be addressed. Tackling this systemic issue, structural inequalities across the board, to tackle this problem.
And what else is going on in chat?
A lot. Exactly. Emmanuel says children aren't given the path to follow by parents who don't even know their child's God-given destiny. Sharon again says they have no goals and no vision. Judy says it's wrong teaching at home.
Again, going back to the parents, I mean, is that ultimately where it stems from?
Bab says, I think we need to call a spade a spade. The sooner we face the fact that there is a lack of discipline in these children's lives, we can try and solve the problem.
I'm going to throw it out there because every debate we tend to have on the BPM, somebody always comes on and blames slavery.
Yes.
So I'm putting it out there. Is there anybody out there who is blaming slavery on the disproportionate number of black males in prisons?
DJ Harvey, I think it's important to put Nana's perspective up there. Nana said the whole premise behind so-called black on black crime is false and deliberately disingenuous. Perpetrators and victims are the same race in 80% of the cases.
Yes, I've actually messaged Nana. Actually, I'm asking her to come on and say something because Alison has pasted her link. She's also messaged me. So Nana, if you want to come on, please do.
Good evening, everyone. Nana is male. He's very male. And also, I would highly recommend that you get him on early, if possible, please, DJ.
I'm actually ready right now.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to go now.
No. I'm actually ready for Nana to come on, but Nana hasn't messaged me
I'll poke him.
Right. Yeah, be gentle. Okay, so let me see. Where else am I gonna go? Alison says media outlets constantly report knife and gun-related murders without any focus on what the actual solutions are or the root of the problem, which has an impact on all within society, irrespective of your age, ethnicity, race, religion, gender, location, or sexual orientation. And again, in that same post, she's actually posted Access UK, which I know is linked to Nana. So Nana, we wait for you to come on with bated breath. Good evening, Barry. I can see that you're there. Very interested on our evening debate. There's a young man, his name is Colin Taylor, under the name of Honor Hay. He says, I moved to London from Birmingham 38 years ago, age 21. I lived in South initially, now residential, now reside in North London, and raved in South West East North London, still alive at 59. More or less the same age as me, sir. Something changed. A lot of murders attributed to youths being out of the area where they live, often attending a party or rave. I was 21, Birmingham accent, didn't feel I couldn't move around London as a young black man. Something drastically changed. I have a theory that because there were no mobiles in my time, young people had to move around to communicate, therefore being familiar face outside of where they lived to others in the peer group. As times changed, people in general didn't move around due to mobiles, making some targeted locals. Let me tell you a quick story. This must have been about, 20, 25 years ago. All my life, I lived in North London. Always, whether or not it was in Enfield or Stoke Newington. I think at the time, I lived in Clapton, E5. And there was a time every summer there was a summer rave in a park. And I remember I went to Brockwell Park. This is me leaving North London to go to Brockwell Park. Big rave, music, food, you know, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, so as it finished, it was about 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. Me, innocent, I'm queuing up by the train station to head back to my side of North London. And all of a sudden, there was a big hoo-ha, massive. And all I saw was all these black people. I mean, it was a black rave. I saw black people attacking black people. What I since learnt, what actually happened, was the South London blacks were now identifying those who were not from South London, because they were all the ones who were catching the trains to go back to their manor, and they just literally attacked us. Why? Because we come from the other side of the water. That's why they attacked us. This is black people attacking black people. And this was a good 20, 25 years ago, Brockwell Park. Never forget that. It was crazy. And instead my eyes started to open and think, what the hell is going on here? Carol says postcode wars. Nana says, I'm on the chat, brother. I'm not too sure what that means. Is that yes or no? Okay. Yeah. Sean, I'm going to ask Sean to be unmuted. Sean, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm listening to your story about being attacked in London by other gangs. And it just makes me
crazy. It was. I didn't even know at the time what was going on. It's only I learnt it, I think it was a day or two afterwards, of why there was so much commotion.
Mm-hmm. It's really ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, my thinking and my thought process has always been that we as black people, we don't know our potential. I'm not going to talk about kingship or queenship, just our potential.
Can I just stop you there, Sean?
Yeah.
I've just realised something. Oh my God. Right, okay, BPM, let me explain. Sean, can I just put you on pause right there, because I've just realised something, and this is very, very important, that what I'm about to say.
No problem.
Now, a month ago, I decided to start the BPM discussion on a Thursday. The BPM had a capacity of 100. We've had 100 for 2 years. After the first discussion, people were locked out. They couldn't get in. Then I realised I had to increase the capacity. I went to Zoom, and it cost an additional £48. Zoom also charged for storage space to keep the recordings. So in total, I'm paying almost £90 a month to increase the capacity to 500. Now, I said to myself, I would give it a 1 month trial to see whether or not paying all of that money is justifiable, even though the BPM cannot afford it, because the donations are just not coming in. That 1 month trial, I have just realised it finished a few days ago. The capacity as we speak is not 500, it's actually 100. And now I realise why I'm getting so many texts that they cannot get in. Basically, the door is closed. Anybody who's been trying to log in for the last hour, I now realise why we are not hitting over 100, and it was concerning me. The reason is that the capacity is down to 100. The reason why it was only on a month's trial is purely financial. 100% financial. If it was down to me, I would keep it at 500 until whenever. But purely because of lack of donations, it was only a one trial, and I forgot to keep it open to 500. So yes, unfortunately, there are multiple persons locked out this evening, and it goes back to the donations to keep the BPM up and running. Sean, let me unmute you again, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. I hear you about the donations, and to keep the thing running, it needs people's
Yeah,
participation.
if ever there was an example of it, it's right now.
Right now.
But it's
Yeah.
not what I wanted, to be honest with you. It's so not what I wanted. But anyway, yes, about the black and black killings and the problem within the black community.
Yes. I've worked in social services, and talking to young black boys who are young black men, should I say, young black men who sell drugs and things like that. And I said to them, I understand your plight. I understand that if you were to work, you would be limited to how much money you could make, because there's a glass ceiling. And the one black man, young man, turned to the other one and says he understands. He then said, we can make more money on the street, or the potential to make more money, because I don't think he was making that much money anyway, but the potential. And I was saying, you know, with their mind, they to be able to go out and to do all of those things, they must have a certain amount of business mindedness, if there's such a word. However, if you put someone in a classroom who's 10 times more intelligent than the rest of the class, and their needs are not being met, you know, they're going to mess around. They're not going to be productive, and they put their productivity into something stupid, which makes everybody think that they're done. Now with this post-Cold War, it's silly. But when a person has no direction, when a person has no aim, no objective to be, or purpose to be a man, then they will take their masculinity and put it into something stupid, such as, you don't come from this place and you can't walk here. It's a way to take back some power and responsibility to those young men. So they do want something to own. They do want something, but the way how it's projected to me and you, it looks simple. It looks simplistic. So there is a need. These young men have a need to be men. They have a need to be masculine, but they haven't got the opportunities to be masculine. How then do we utilize it? I was saying to this young person, we can have a community center that helps young men to do business, to do all of these things, so that they can redirect their lives in a positive way, and not to be held back by the jobs that they may go into. So I do understand that when we look at the black and black crime, sometimes I think we're very passive towards it because we're helpless to do anything about it. And I guess we don't talk about it. But we need to sit down with these young men, and I don't call them boys, because you know what? There's too many times we get these 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and we call them boys. We never give them you know, when you judge someone and you call them a boy, they will remain a boy. If you call them a man, they will have to think again. So that's why I call them men. And we need to treat them like men. And if they fall beneath that, then at least they know. And we need to set standards within our communities so that our young people understand that they are men. As I said before, my parents are from the West Indies, and they married when they were young. They had that responsibility from they were young. Now we're waiting until we're half dead to get married. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We need to have our priorities and set our priorities straight so that our young people can see the path that they need to be led on. Otherwise, it's just going to be more of the same. And I would go as far as to say, if we find ourselves in relationships that are not working out with it, tough, stick it out. If you've made the wrong decision, stick it out. That's what I would say to us as a generation. If you've made the wrong decision and you're in that, tough, learn to deal with it.
And have you got any hope for the black youth going forward? I mean, my boy is only 6. My boy is 6. But for those boys who are hitting the teenage years, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, black boys of colour, those what I call extremely vulnerable ages, not only emotionally and mentally, but also vulnerable to third parties, gang members, people who want to drag them into the wrong direction. Because for anybody out there who has got a black, more predominantly a black male of those early teenage years, I fear for them tremendously, especially if you're living in a city centre, Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, London. I mean, crikey, it is scary. Is it only me?
I would say to that, and it's been said before, that we need counsellors. We need those that have done counselling to maybe look at the career that they're in and decide to do counselling, because there's a lot of people that have qualified, but they're not doing anything with their qualification. There's solicitors that needs to be poised in a way that they are concerned with their community. We need outlets that these young people, when a person does come to them with a way that's not right, that they can say, no, I have another option within my community. We need to be there for them to give them that hope. We can't just say they have no hope. Their hope should come from us. And in turn, if we have no hope, what hope have they got? So it boils back down to us to make opportunities so that they can have some hope.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your words of wisdom, sir, because it is a very complex subject. How it's solved, I think we'll be here until the next couple of decades. But yeah, like I said, thank you very much for your input. And
no problem at all.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so Nana. Now, apparently Nana is available. The reason why I haven't, in fact, let's speak to her. Nana, asked to unmute. Nana, good evening. I've asked you to unmute. There you go. Nana, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Are you okay?
Yes, good. Yeah, the reason why I wasn't too sure whether or not you wanted to come on is that you didn't put your hand up.
I did, but you never noticed, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, right, okay.
I know.
Yes,
I know
good evening, sir.
busy man.
I
Yes,
hear you.
sir.
I think it's very important for you to, before you say what you want to say, is to explain Access UK.
Explain Access UK. So Access stands for African Caribbean Careers and Employment Support Services UK. And the concept for Access came off the back of the 2011 riots or social uprisings, wherever you sit on whichever side of the fence you sit on. And it's basically just to provide more tailored, culturally bespoke solutions for young people. That's different from the mainstream. Because I don't know if you know the experience of young people in the mainstream in terms of like job centers, etc. All they face is like generic solutions that don't really work for them. So Access is like, think of it as a careers provision, which is really tailored to addressing the problems that young black people face in society, in the labor market, etc. That's what we do. So we provide solutions around employment, education, and enterprise as a free ease of solving their problems. That's essentially what we do.
Excellent. And what have you got to say on tonight's subject?
What could you repeat it? Because I came in kind of late.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we're talking about obviously black killings within the black community. Let me just give you a few bullet points. Despite making up only 13% of London's total population, black Londoners account for 45% of London's crime knife murder victims, 61% of knife murder perpetrators, and 53% of knife crime perpetrators. Why don't we hear of white on white crimes? Are the black youths carrying around knives for self-protection? Is music a factor, an underlying factor? Because there are a lot of drill rap videos out there on YouTube now, as we speak right now, glorifying in the death of rival gang members, how they killed them, when they killed them. YouTubers allowing all that to be on their network. Is sentencing enough of a deterrent out there? And another one, I'll give you one last bullet point. Why do black people tend to ignore black on black killings, but when a white person kills a black person, all hell breaks out? Marches, riots, demonstrations, the whole 9 yards. So those are a few bullet points that I raised earlier on.
Yeah, there's a lot there. We'll be here all day in terms of addressing every single one. So maybe you could pick up one of those questions and I'll see if I can.
Okay, so let's go to the very first one. I said, despite making up only 13% of London's total population, black Londoners account for 45% of London knife crime murders. Okay,
well, first of all, it's a very simple maths in this, in terms of the population of the black population of the UK. It's concentrated in London. So by mere fact of numbers, you're going to have a disproportionate, involvement in crime. It's very, very simple. If, up until maybe a few years ago, Glasgow was the knife crime capital of Europe, not even the UK, of Europe. And there's not many people that look like me and you that live in Glasgow. You understand? Yeah. So it's not, what they try to do is they try to create this myth that, knife crime and youth violence is just a black thing, right? They do it with such sophistication that black people end up internalizing it and believing in it. It's also a case of young people end up believing in the hype as well. So invariably what happens is that a lot of young people that are carrying knives are not necessarily so-called road youths or bad youths. They just bought into the media kind of propaganda, end up carrying knives, end up being victims of knife crime and also perpetuating knife crime. So you have in the situation in 2023 where you have an A-level student or a university graduate or even someone who's an undergraduate carrying a knife on that basis, right? So back in my day, I'm in my early 40s. Back in my day, 20 odd years ago, whenever there was that kind of so-called street violence, it was between hardcore criminals within particular areas that were engaged in this crime. So-called civilians, quote unquote, were not necessarily uh, involved in it. It was very, very particular to particular cliques of people in different areas committing crimes. Now, that whole lifestyle has become almost like a fashion through the music, through it has become popular culture. So the street, the boys that are on the street, the boys and girls on the street can now not differentiate between the so-called road youth and the so-called good youth or quote unquote civilian. So the whole lines of that, that kind of separation has become blurred. And I could go into that, really break that down, but we haven't got all day. But one basic saying is that it's a very complex situation, and black people need to be very careful not to internalize the kind of the propaganda that's out there. There is a problem, clearly, and I think we also need to address the problem redress the problem by saying also for every young black person that's involved in criminality, there's another 10 that are not. There's another 10 that are going to college, working, and we sometimes forget that narrative as well. And we paint the picture that all our youths are involved in this lifestyle. I mean, it's a very dangerous kind of narrative that we have to kind of address or redress. There's as much as even more so, those are doing what they're supposed to do to the small contingent that get all the headlines that are committing these crimes and out there on the streets.
So let me ask you a question. Obviously in Glasgow, Devon, Exeter, I'm thinking of Kent. I'm thinking of quintessential white areas, by the way.
Yeah.
Obviously, in those areas there are more white people in those prisons. But where you've got a multiracial area, I'm talking about the big cities in England, your Manchesters, Birmingham, Londons, and so on and so on. Why is there a very worrying, disproportionate number of black youths, predominantly male, in the prisons?
You talk about those. Obviously, you can be from London and be imprisoned in Manchester, and so that's
obviously. But in general,
a little bit more.
I mean, in general, for example, I'm sure that the prisons in Exeter say there might be, I don't know, capacity of 1,000. I'm sure that a very small percentage will be black because it's.
All right, check this out. Let me ask you a question. Let me flip that question back to you. Okay. What is the prison population of the UK? The entire prison population.
Crikey! Now you're asking.
Tell me.
The prison population of the UK.
Yeah. So, if all the people that are locked up in jail in the UK, what do you think that is?
I would say the average prison, I'm only guessing, is 1,000. How many prisons are in the UK? God knows how many. I don't know. Maybe 100 or 200. So you're probably looking at, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000 maybe. I don't know.
That's actually quite a good guess. 100,000. Yeah.
Okay.
100,000. But if when you see, there's one of my mentors put that question to me about 8 years ago, and I didn't know the answer. And when he told me the answer, it was actually quite telling. Because what my perception and the reality didn't match up. I assumed that it would be a lot higher than 100,000. And out of that 100,000, there's disproportionality of our people within the prison system. Yeah, whether they're young people or older prisoners. But that's related to other systemic issues in terms of disproportionality. For example, there was a program that came on a few years back. I think it was called Gangland or something, where there was a black production company that done this program, and it came under attack because everybody that showed on that program was a young black male. So the perception is that these young black males are the ones out there committing these crimes.
And do you know who the director was? Was he white or black?
No, he's black. He's a black man. He's a black man. They're based in Brixton. I can't remember their name, but I ended up writing to the production company, cussing them off essentially, and then they approached me a year after to get involved in the second program, which I didn't get involved in because I didn't like the narrative. But essentially, what they told me was that I was the only person, all the black people in the UK, I was the only person actually put pen to paper, or actually I put my hand to my email to write to them to actually cuss them out. There were people making noise, but nobody done their research to find out who they were and anything. Out of that, they contacted me. But the point I'm making is this, because we're kind of going off in tangent. The point I'm making is this: the disproportionality is connected to other factors. For example, if a group of people are in Manchester or Liverpool or any major city and they're walking, there's a police presence, they'll pick on the black youths. Now, if the black youths are carrying knives, they'll go onto their statistics and their data. But out of that black youth that you picked on, there's another 3 white youths that carry knives as well. Do you understand? So
Yeah, of
the
course.
over-policing feeds into the data as well. So for that person that that black person you've arrested, there's another 4 or 5 white people that carry knives as well that will use that knife. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Liverpool recently, you saw the case of the young girl that got stabbed up and killed. You saw the young girl, I think she's about 7 years old, that got shot. Most of the crimes that have been committed in Liverpool are being done by white working class people, white on white crime, as they call it, as you will call it, essentially. So, like I said, the disproportionality, we can't look at it just on the numbers alone. There's a foundation to the disproportionality in terms of the incarceration rates and everything else, in terms of the more young black males being excluded from schools and all this plethora of other stuff that goes into it. It's not just a case of they're merely in prison because of their skin color. It's a lot more complex than that. Essentially, is what I'm saying.
No, I hear you loud and clear. What about? I'll give you another bullet point.
Yes.
Nobody has really addressed this because, as black people, I think we tend to ignore certain possible truths, and I've mentioned this bullet point twice, and I haven't really seen much reaction to it. So let me re-emphasize this one again, because people need to dig down deep in their souls and think about this one.
Yeah.
Why do black people tend to ignore black on black killings, but when a white person kills a black person, all hell breaks out, marches, riots, demonstration? So,
okay.
I mean, yeah.
All right. I mean, we're going to give you a simple answer to that, because we spent about 2 days, one of my groups, discussing this point, and it came off the back of the issue with the young black lady or young black sister that was attacked in I can't remember where, South London, wherever it was.
Yeah, it was.
Recently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It was our first discussion show.
Was it Ashford?
Yes, Ashford in Kent. Yes,
that's correct. So this same point you just made came up in a discussion, and I said, you know what it is? For me, it's very simple. It's the same act, yeah, in terms of someone's being killed, but the reasons for it differ. So a lot of this so-called black on black crime, obviously, for me, is steeped in self-hate. Yeah, there's a self-hating component within it a lot of the times. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, so it's an internal issue that we have within our community where the self-hate manifests itself in acts like, another one black person killing another black person. Cool. The other phenomena which you're talking about is when a white person kills a black person. The rationale behind that is different, and that's the reason why it's much easier to look at an external phenomena that's attacking you than to look at yourself in the mirror. It's much easier to do that. Do you understand? Because the first one requires self-reflection. It requires the black community looking at themselves in the mirror, looking at it, and saying, okay, what's going wrong? And the fact that people saying that there's not really a lot of hoo-ha about it, I disagree, because I'm in a whole heap of WhatsApp groups and community groups, and there's a definite concern about so-called black on black violence. 110%. 110%. And these groups, we have to understand is that they're the so-called, I don't know what you want to call it, the so-called conscious community is a very, very small one. Most of our people are so kind of lost within the system, they don't even know these kind of groups even exist. So it's like the group is like a snapshot of what other people are thinking. Do you understand? But what I'm saying is that invariably, there's always a discussion about what's going on and what can we do, and people are always concerned consistently, 365 days, of the year. So I think that whole notion that people don't react, it's a bit, I don't think it's as clear cut as that. But I'm saying that in terms of the differentiation, it's really to do with one being a more of a self-reflective thing, which people don't really like doing, and the other being an external force, i.e., normally a white person killing or attacking a black person. I think that's why there's different reactions to it, to the same acts.
And talking about, I'm really going to throw the spanner in the works here, but as a presenter, I have to sit on the fence and trying to throw one or two spanners in there. When was the last time we saw a demonstration of predominantly black people because a black person has been murdered by another black person?
Happens all the time. Go speak to all the countless mothers that have lost their fathers have lost their child to knife crime. It happens all the time. I don't understand where they're going with this. It happens all the time. All the time.
Are you saying that it's the media that's not really sort of like putting it out there for the general public to see? Because
110%, because their narrative is to perpetuate this myth that knife crime and youth violence is an exclusively black thing. So like I said earlier, some black people who are not very informed end up buying into it and then perpetuate the same myths, and becomes like a vicious cycle. There are problems definitely within our community, but we're far from the only ones that are experiencing this phenomena. Go up and down the country, you see for yourself. We only make up 5% of the population. So they mean to tell us that us 5%ers are the ones that are causing all the issues in the whole entire country, where there's about 80 million odd people, white people in it, and we make up like a fraction of that population. I don't buy into it. It just doesn't even add up.
And I want to throw one last thing at you, something that we have not touched on so far this evening. You've got loads of these black youths going in prison, but what is there for them when they come out? Because I've heard a very worrying stat that I can't know the stat exactly, but I know that there is a high percentage of those black brothers who are going in prison, coming out and going straight back to the crime that they were put in prison for.
Indeed, but you see, that's not it's not a black thing. That's a generic thing.
Yeah,
doesn't matter whether you're Indian, Asian, Indian or wherever you are. It's applicable. What it is that this is one of the reasons why Access was set up, because at the time that we set it up following the London riots, 2012, 1 in 2 young black people between the ages of 18 and 24 were unemployed in the UK, and that figure has remained consistent, whether we're in like an economic decline or things are going well. There's a boom. That's remained consistent. Black graduates, just on the flip side of that, black graduates are up to 2 or 3 times more likely to be unemployed than their fellow white graduates. So here I am. I've gone to university. I've stayed out of trouble. I've got a first-class degree, and I'm with my colleague John Smith, who's a white person. We apply for work. Because my name is Nana Ajman and his name is John Smith, he will get more interviews than me, period, because his name is John Smith. It's as simple as that. Okay? So our role as an organization is, how do I help Nana Ajman to circumvent these issues? Do you understand? What tools can I give him to empower him to navigate this space? You understand? That's our key our key role within this issue. Now, another thing as well, another thing that I want to touch on, and somebody else talked about it, was like the kind of entrepreneurial spirit of a lot of the youths that are on the streets, which is true, but it's not harnessed in a correct way. A lot of them, when they go into job centers or engage certain institutions, they've been pigeonholed or they've been funneled through the normal stereotypical routes. So sports, entertainment, and maybe construction or some other kind of menial occupations. When they come into places like us, who are consciously competent and run by people from the community that understand the problems we face, we're going by what they want to do. If it's realistic and we can kind of help them to achieve that, we will. We also have a strong focus on entrepreneurship, legal entrepreneurship. So turning their illegal hustle into a legal hustle. So we're introducing them to things like cryptocurrency, forex trading, property investment, all the kind of things that all the kind of things they hear about, but not necessarily understand how it all works. And we're breaking it down to them by people that look like them, that can relate to them, and they can speak to on a level. Not going into an institution where they're even afraid or even, might be really kind of reluctant to tell their so-called advisor what they want to do because of that lack of confidence and, lack of self-belief, which is obviously endemic within the mainstream systems when they're dealing with young black people. So they're pitching. So you have situations where people have degrees, but they're working in supermarkets. And there's nothing wrong with working in a supermarket, but why go to study for 3-4 years in an institution to go and work in a job which you don't need no qualifications to do? You understand? So our whole thing is about making sure they're really in tune with all these things that are going on. We also work with psychologists, therapists, black historians to really give them that motivation, that sense of who they are, the disconnects they have within the mainstream, to give them the motivation to go out and do what they need to do. So that's a core component of our provision in terms of, you wouldn't expect a career service to be engaged in that kind of work, but we know it's complementary to what we want to achieve, especially with young black service users. So we've worked with people like Robin Walker and various other historians and therapists in the community to complement our work, essentially.
Well, sir, you've been a tremendous source of information and insight. Access UK, I did see somebody post your details in the chat. I'm very happy for you to post it again. So before you go again, let's go back to Access UK. Anybody who's interested, what could Access UK offer the youth or anybody seeking help? What is your strengths that will put people in the right direction?
Our strength is very simple. It's a cultural competence. White people call it, these are the buzzwords white people use, cultural competence, which just basically means that you understand your beneficiary, you understand the barriers they face, you understand the systemic issues that stops them from going into particular institutions, etc. So yeah, we're just a careers service that's culturally competent. And initially we started with 18 to 24-year-olds. Because that was the core group that were affected by this high unemployment. But now we've kind of relaxed the age criteria. We work across the board from, young people that are in primary schools, giving them careers advice, all the way up to the older folk like myself. So I mean, a lot of our work is driven by, contracts. We would love to, get grants like these white institutions get, but we hardly get none. So a lot of it is driven by contracts and agreements to deliver services and get paid for it. Hence why somebody said earlier that we're self-funded, because that's exactly the social enterprise model that we run. We deliver service, get paid, not by the beneficiary, by the way, not by the person that's coming in, by a third party that's paying for us to engage that person. So whether it's the council, central government, whoever it may be, that's how we run our service.
And can I just say just one last thing, is that you touched on something about funding, and you mentioned, I stand corrected, but you made an insinuation that white organisations are granted funds more easier than, say, a cultural one. Would you say that's true? I'm trying to be politically correct and I'm failing miserably.
I think anybody that's on this chat who's works in community knows that to be a fact. And there's many reasons why that is, yeah. But black organizations and services are grossly underfunded, and it's deliberate. It's on purpose.
And
Yeah.
using a topical terminology. Again, I'm thinking about how to vocalize this. Would you say that those Caucasian institution
Yeah.
regarding funding are the benefactors of white privilege funding?
110%, 110%. Let me give you an example how this happened. So I've got a colleague who's doing excellent work in Northwest London, and he was approached by a couple running an institution that they had £3 million worth of funding, but they couldn't to basically address young black people, help young black people, but they couldn't get them in through the door. So this couple contacted my friend. Remember, they've got £3 million worth of funding. Contacted my friend to kind of pick his brain, steal his intellectual capital or property, and go and do their own thing. But he clocked. So he said to them, "Listen, I can tell you how to do it, but you need to pay me." So he was able to secure a subcontract to essentially refer young people to this organization. Now, how ironic that you got one person that's really doing the work on the ground, excellent organization, but yet he can't secure 3 million that the white couple secured, but without the ability to engage the people that have been paid to engage. Do you understand? And that's a conundrum. That's a conundrum we face all the time. And it's a very complex thing because a lot of people in the community are also selling themselves short. So when they get contacted by these people, they will undervalue their service, grossly undervalue it. And then that same couple or organization will come across somebody like me, and it's a different story. And me personally, I don't really care whether they accept, if I have an offer to that organization and they think it's too high, they could go about their business because we're gonna do what we're doing regardless. Do you understand? But we're fighting on so many different fronts that it become very tiresome. And to do this community work, it requires a different kind of skin. You need to really tough skin. We need to be mentally resilient, physically resilient, and it's a lot of people can't do it because you need to be built from a different kind of material to even navigate the whole space because it's a lot. It's a lot.
No, I hear you loud and clear. The BPM is happy to collaborate with any organisation that is a clear benefit to the community, and obviously Access UK clearly is one of those. I'd like to wish you the very best of luck. Congratulations on what you're doing, and
Thank you, sir.
long may it continue. And ultimately, hopefully, you will get a funding of substance to grow what you do.
Oh, we do, sir. Don't get it twisted. We do. But what I'm saying is I have to go through a journey to get to where we are now.
Yeah, you have to go through I look at life as going through jumping hurdles. Like the black people have to jump more hurdles than our white counterparts, basically.
Indeed. But one last thing before I go is that we need, as a community, we need to stop looking at our provisions from a charitable perspective and look at it more as a social enterprise. Right? There's a big difference between the two. Not meaning that we charge, we have a very basic understanding of how it works. Not meaning that we charge the beneficiary. It means that, like I said, it means that somebody is paying for the interaction between A and B. And it's not from a funding perspective, but a social enterprise perspective. We really need to understand the difference between it. And I think that's where kind of we need to go to in order to kind of circumvent these booby traps that are there.
No, I hear you loud and clear. Nana, I'd like to say thank you. And I'd like to apologise earlier on for keep calling you female. I keep being corrected by various people.
Yeah, Nana's a unisex name, so it could be.
Right, there you go.
All right, so no
there you go. Thank you very much, sir. Good evening.
Anytime.
Thank you. Okay, well, there you go. Denise,
Hello.
before we come to you, can I just say, for those of you who have managed to squeeze on, um, purely on my oversight, the capacity tonight is 100. The last 4 episodes of the BPM debate show, the capacity, well, after the first one, the capacity went to 500. And I gave it a month's trial to see whether or not we would get significant numbers over 100. And the answer is yes. Last week we had 274 people on. But the capacity was closed back down to 100, which means I'm paying about 40 something pound a month now as opposed to 90. I'm going to have to increase it again. One thing about me is that I do like to be transparent. As we speak right now, the BPM's account has got £328 in the account. Our weekly expenses around about 150. £90 for the Zoom, paying the DJs over the weekend, paying flyer costings and running costs. It works out to around about £150. £150. It's £90 per month, and then you've got DJs, flyer. It's probably over £250 a month. You're looking at around about £250 a month to run the BPM, and it's a struggle month to month, but we have survived in 2.5 years purely on your donations. The Thursday night discussion has thrown a big spanner in the works because we were ticking along very nicely on Saturday and Sunday, but the Thursday night discussion has taken us to another level, which means the donations are even more important. What I also want to do in the summertime is have a BPM get together one Sunday, an all dayer, bring your music. I'll bring the music, bring your food, drink. We'll just have a party, a socialization one summer afternoon. Last summer I looked in hiring costs of certain venues. They want several £100 deposit. We haven't got several £100, and then obviously once you've got the venue, then it's going to be additional costings. We don't need £328 in the bank. We need a couple of thousand to grow the BPM for the community, not only for people listening to music but have discussions, but to have events in the summertime where we can meet up, socialize, have a party, have a drink, just do what we black people do best. But I need to grow it, and so this is the reason why there was multiple people locked out. I'm getting texts and SMSs all the time. So if your friends, your family are all locked out, please send them our apologies. Denise, you have
Hello.
got a very busy chat.
Yes.
Yes, what's been going on?
Extremely busy. It's been extremely busy, but some really amazing comments. We had Gorilla Man. He said that he agreed 100% with Judy's comments that mental health, especially PTSD, is a major factor around gang culture. That was his thoughts. And we have a lot of groups, information about groups in the UK that are doing different things. Generational wealth was talking about, for example, he said, my brothers and sisters don't have no food to eat. What groups and teams are in position to support those who require support from this cost of living crisis? Where is the group so we can cook a pot of soup and connect and reflect? I thought that was beautiful. And someone did come out with some information that there is a soup kitchen somewhere.
Yeah, that was Marva. Yeah, I could see it, yeah.
Marva said that Brixton Soup Kitchen supplies meals, and she's sure there are others as well. Quite interesting chat here. So many comments, thoughts. Okay, I wanted to get into Allison. She had a really good one. She was talking about Black on Black crime also includes misogynoir, police violence, domestic violence, African slave selling, slave owners, and bounty hunters. women who beat men, harassment at work, cyberbullying amongst Black people.
What has black on black killing got to do with bounty hunters and slavery? I mean,
We
where?
should
Where is the link? Somebody help me on that one.
Paula may come back in the chat and say something. She also referred to harassment at work, cyberbullying amongst Black people, and serious youth violence. Generational wealth. Okay, one moment. Oh, there's so much to go through here. Sometimes, Rosie said, sometimes the parents do point this out, but they are not often taken seriously as well. And that was with respect to a comment about, mental health issues. Again, ADHD, PTSD affecting gang violence, or as a gateway to gang violence.
And as somebody who deals with mental health, what have you got to say regarding that particular point of view?
Yes, it's very interesting that we're associating some of these mental health conditions with gang violence. We often hypothesize that youth join gangs because, they want to have a sense of belonging. And that's true to an extent, a sense of belonging that they don't have with their families. That's what most people think. The family is not providing that supportive structure. Parents aren't there. Essentially, it has been identified as an identity development. The identity development is influenced mainly by the desire to learn more about themselves and the importance of being accepted amongst a particular peer group. And this is what the studies are finding, why young people are beginning to engage in gang violence. It's an identity and probably an acceptance thing. And I'm going to look to the chats to see what people are saying.
Yeah. While you're looking, what I'm actually doing right now, I've had a WhatsApp message from somebody who can't get in and asking me, will it be available to view at some stage? Well, it seems as though that certain people still don't know that all the shows, all the BPM debate shows are actually all on YouTube. So let me help you guys along, because I'm literally about to paste this to him in WhatsApp. But there you go. Okay, so inside the chat, for those of you who want to know where are the recordings and future recordings on YouTube, I've sent the link inside the chat. Click that link. That link is for, which show was that one? It was part 1. Black girl gets attacked by black girl attacked outside Thomas Kinvert College in Ashford. So go into that link where it says subscribe, and then you click the link, the BPM, and then you will see all the videos that we've had on the discussion. And if you subscribe and press the bell, then every video, every YouTube video from the BPM that is uploaded and therefore public viewing, you will get notification. So if you haven't subscribed so far, we've had 123 subscribers in a couple of weeks, which is amazing. So for those of you who have not subscribed yet, press the subscribe button, and when this tonight's show is uploaded on YouTube, it will be before 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, then you will be notified accordingly. But for all of you who are on the BPM distribution list, WhatsApp particularly, or email, then you will get the link sent to you tomorrow. Yes, inside the Zoom chat, Denise. Can I just say, Denise, before you continue, anybody else who wants to come on and have their say, please do. We haven't got any hands up at the moment, so we may be finishing this one early tonight. But yeah, Denise. Come back to the chat.
Yeah, Carol said that she totally agreed with Nana about the community not doing the internal reflection. That's food for thought. And Shiran said, we saw this lack of noise reaction when the 5 Black officers killed the Black man in the US. Had that been 5 white officers, USA would have been on fire.
Absolutely on fire. My God, can you imagine? This would be, I mean, the George Floyd was one in particular officer killing George Floyd, but this was 5. It was literally 5 beating the hell out of him. Absolutely on fire, without a and think about it, all of it was recorded, so it's not even beyond any doubt. So yeah, I think yeah, that is something that we need to look at and look into our hearts and souls and find out why do we react in certain ways to certain crimes by certain colors, definitely. And people need to look and into their heart to find the truth, not what they think, but what their heart tells them, because it would have been a completely... America will still be burning today.
Definitely, definitely. Generational wealth says correct. It is a missing element of connect for a common vision and mission. The scripture says people will perish because of what? A lack of vision. A vision and a mission needs to be determined that connects the community. And I believe an economy that is ours is a start.
I'm very interested. Generational wealth. I would love you to come on and say a bit tonight, because every now and again I'm looking at their comments. Substance. There's a lot in there. Brian, we're going to come to you. Let's have one more, Denise. One more comment from the chat, and we'll go to Brian.
Okay, I guess Emmanuel says that he throws in George Floyd killing protests were a culmination of multiple factors, including lockdown. So let's not compare.
I think you can compare. I totally disagree. Why can't you compare? It's a white guy killing a black man on his neck, and then you got 5 black coppers killing a black man. Lockdown or no lockdown?
Yeah.
Am I wrong or am I right? I don't know. Anyway, Denise, yes, thank you. We're going to go to Brian. Let's unmute Brian. Let's see what Brian's got to say. Brian, good evening.
Hi, good evening, greetings, everybody. Just reading through the chat, listening to this session. I think it's really, really fabulous, fantastic that you've brought this up. There's a lot of young people around me, especially in the last 5 years, mentoring and stuff like that. And I've got 2 young children myself, and I worry. I don't worry about them so much now, but I do for some other people's parents. So I'm really going to just base it on 2 things, really. I just want to mention. The first really is, since our children have been born, for 16 years, we've been very, very active with where our children go. These are just basic things. I've seen this in the chat, and sometimes we overlook these things. Whether people together or they're co-parenting, they're not together. Our thing where our children have sort of got on, and not got into any problems, because we know where our children are. That's the first one. When they leave school, we know where they are. Call them up and find out where them is. You know what I mean? And that's been going on for since they've started school, and also knowing their parents as well. This is just a basic solution. I know there's a lot of problems, a lot of pressure for Black people and all kinds of stuff going on, but just these basic things, what I see with other parents, they don't really do. And it's not, criticism or curse or anything. People have got lives to lead. Everyone's different. Everyone's got all different pressures. Everybody, including ourselves, And, I just want to mention that, is that, you just need to know what your children are, talk to your children, you bring them into the world, you have a responsibility for them, and I think.
But do enough parents take responsibility? Because when I was growing up, what my dad said, that was it. Is it the case now? I mean, do children tend to ignore their parents? Is that, well, clearly the parental power has gone over the children because of today's guidelines and protection orders and this, that and the other, and children's rights. So a lot of the power from parents have gone. So do you think that the children of today actually listen to their parents nowadays?
I agree. I think they don't. I've always been told that, your ears are open and they stay open for a reason, your mouth open and closed, So there's a reason for that, some children just listen because through one ear and that ear. And
I mean, as a child, I'm sorry, Brian, as a child, I was brought up with consequence, i.e., and I'm sure a lot of the people listening this evening will know exactly what I'm talking about, but I was brought up with consequence. If I'd done something wrong, bang, I got punished. Whether or not it's by school, I got the cane, or whether or not it's at home, I got licks. There was always a consequence, and there was always a right and wrong, and I knew what was right, and I knew what was wrong, and I knew that if it was wrong, there would be a consequence to bear. And I look back now, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm glad I got a beating. I'm glad I got a clip round the ear. I'm glad that got the belt out and whacked me a few times, because that's how it was in the 70s. But what I'm trying to say is, the point that I'm getting at is, what is the consequences of today for the youth?
No, yeah, I mean, I've grown with that. If your ears can't hear, your backside must feel, you know what I mean?
Trust.
And, it's like the system is not designed for that here, you know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. I think some parents might take it a bit far, this is, we know this. Maybe my parents took it a bit far with something, and I feel blessed, you know what I mean? They brought me up in a way where me not trouble nobody, you understand? Because there was consequences, I don't got in trouble no one. All my family, my all my siblings, my mom's a big, a big figure in the community, you know what I mean? My mom's 80, she's still a run partner to this day. So I've seen a lot, but I know, that it's her, my dad, and my uncle, they'll watch us, and that's what's missing. That's why I'm talking about this co-parenting, this parenting thing, and who's our keeper, and that's not there anymore, back in the day, I mean, I'm sound like an old school now, but unknown caller, people's house, and they'll come around our house, and we know everybody, and if we see a youth on the street, I mean, they knew we were out on road before we get back home. We don't even know who's reported that. And there's none of that. We don't care about that. So the community I'm around, like my children's friends, I know all of them. I mean, it's like I've known as the school run dad. So I know all the youth, I know all my youths and friends. And if I see them on the street, I tell them parents, innit? And if they act a certain way, I'm telling them, I can't, I'm not going to lick them or nothing like that. But I'm going to tell them, look, you can't do that. But they don't act that way because I've already done almost like a mini interview with my children's parents, and they do the same with us, keeping them busy. You tend to move around a certain type of people, and the people that are not so good or not so good for your children, you talk to their parents and find out what's going on and even support them, So that was the first thing I wanted to say, actually. That was just the base of that. It's that community is weak in this country now, as we bring up our children. And it's not the children's fault a lot of the time. It can't be. It just can't be, because it wasn't, used to have a lot of bad youth back in the day, but you know who they were, but now it's like all the youths are bad. A lot of them are bad that are not being brought up a certain way. So
Have you lost hope? It
I
sounds
haven't
it sounds as though you've lost hope amongst
seen some
the black
children
youth.
where no, I mean, I'm involved in certain things, and I see their parents like even going to football or something like that. Their parents are not there. Where their parents? They're not even supporting them. You understand? They're not supporting their children. They just let them go along, and it's not losing hope. But I'm always someone to say, look, why wasn't? How come he wasn't there? And oh, it's this and that, and everyone's got pressures. But it seems that our parents, the parents of our children, can do better, or they could try better, and they're not doing that. And that's how I'm seeing it. That's how maybe I can't see everything.
Everybody sees it from different angles, different experiences, and different pictures. So what you see is what you see.
I agree. And, the parents, some parents have challenges. I mean, this was another thing I was going to mention as well. And someone mentioned on the chat, this was the second thing I was going to mention. This is about neurodiverse children, people with ADHD, dyslexia. I mean, it's a large proportion of people, and they're being failed by the system.
Generational wealth, again, he comes up with another generational wealth. You need to be coming on to the BPM because he's coming out with another one-liner. It's a pretty decent one, actually. He says, tell me, where is our black people hotline number? Yeah, well, as I said, the BPM would love to have one, but due to lack of funding and lack of staffing issues, then that obviously is not going to be myself. But yeah, I mean, and going on that point, I saw inside the chat somebody mentioned about lack of mentors, lack of role models for our children in the black community. Do you think that's a factor?
Oh, certainly. I think every black parent or child should sign up with some black community of some denomination for parents to sit and talk, and find out what's going on in their community, and that's mental. That is what's the word for it? That's counseling in itself, because we're very segregated at the moment. There's nobody that we can really talk to. There's a lot of parents in organizations I've been in. I've seen the parents they're coming in and they just disappear, and you think, it's a good setup that a black community has, charities and whatever, and they disappear, and you wonder why have they disappeared, and you wonder what their children's doing, because you might get contact with their children and they just go back out in the wilderness, and I imagine, they're not really getting on well in life, really, because there's no support, one parent talking to another parent and their children connecting to each other and stuff like that, and having conversations, on a Saturday afternoon or whatever, in a controlled, environment, is the best thing. But it's just not happening. It's not happening as much as it should be, and hopefully, in the future, like Access UK just come on a second ago. You know what I mean? And these people know about these organizations, but they're not using them to good effect,
Honestly, before tonight's show, I never heard of Access UK, so I'm so glad that Nana has come on to raise awareness of his organisation. So once again, Nana, if you want to post your details in the chat, yeah, very much appreciated. Brian, you've been a fantastic participant this evening.
Thank you for
yeah, thank you very much, and yep, no doubt we'll see you again soon on the BPM. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, bless up.
Cheers. Okay, so Mr. Eldridge, can I just say, regarding what I said earlier on about where is today's consequences, I wasn't advocating the sort of discipline which we received back in the 70s. I was thinking about what are the modern day consequences. Let me tell you what my modern day consequences are. I've got a 6, 7 and soon to be 11-year-old daughter. By the way, talking about my 11-year-old daughter, we have an update on her trying to get into grammar school, not a grammar school, private school, trying to get a bursary. I will have a decision come Sunday's show, and if possible, depending on what time it is, I could possibly get her on. So those of you who don't know, I've got a daughter who she's 11 in a few weeks' time, and we've applied for a bursary to the top school in the Midlands, and that decision will be made this Saturday. So I'm hoping to have an update for you. Well, definitely have an update on Sunday. Discipline. Okay, so what do I do regarding my children? How do I enforce discipline so they know what's right and wrong? Obviously, I can't hit them nowadays. That's wrong. What I do is the firm daddy voice. I call it a daddy voice because there's a complete difference between a mummy voice saying that it's wrong and fix up to a daddy voice. A daddy voice is like a bass drum, and I give them the look. I tell them exactly what they've done wrong and why I'm not happy, and what they should have done correct. Then I just go quiet, and I look at them eye to eye, and I just stay silent for about 30 seconds. I literally hold it for 35, 40, 45 seconds. So they could absorb what I've told them, feel it, because I know that when my parents gave me the silence, wasn't very often, but it was more at school, you're scared of what they're going to say next, and you absorb exactly what's being said. There's no use saying, da-da-da-da-da, you're right, you're wrong, and then that's it, done. No, you have to go with the silence. I just give them the stare, the look, feel the electricity in the air, feel my emotion, feel my passion, feel my heart, feel how I'm dissatisfied. And that is my today's consequence for my children. What I'm asking is, in other homes, what are parents doing so their children know what's right and wrong and they won't do it again or try not to do it again? This is what I'm trying to find out. Right, Eldridge. I want to go into Eldridge. Something that Eldridge said earlier on. Okay, good evening, everyone. The power of parenting has not been removed. DJH is right about consequences. Discipline is not giving the beating. Parental authority comes from within. It includes natural and logical consequences along with settings and reinforcing boundaries. No means no, basically, exactly. Say what you mean and mean it, and mean what you say. Be there for your children. Mr. Eldridge, I salute you, because that's exactly the sort of thing that I try to guide with my children. It's not easy, but you try your best, you do what you think is right. Mr. Wayne Wyatt. I believe we spoke to Wayne before on one of the previous shows. Wayne, good evening. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, you did. I was on your first.
Aha! I remember you because your accent. You're in America, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
in California.
California boy. What's the weather like in California?
72 today.
No
Good.
way, Mr. Wayne Wyatt. Let me tell you,
Wayne.
Let me tell you right now, is that I'm in the Midlands in the UK, and we have been, at least 2 inches under snow. It's all melting now. Apparently it's going to be back tomorrow. but we've had 2 inches of snow in the Midlands in the UK, and you're basking in 72 degrees.
Nah, but we were 40 something over the weekend, and it snowed 2 weeks ago, and it's not supposed to snow here. So we've had a cold winter, but I'm enjoying today. Today's a good day.
No worries, no worries. Yes, sir. What you got to say about this evening?
So I've been listening, you know, and you definitely have some great conversations going on, and I try to get on as often as I can. I think in terms of parenting, it's easier to parent daughters than it is to parent sons as a father. In terms of the not hitting your children. I agree that I grew up in an era where our parents beat us, but I think in today's world, I have 2 daughters and a 32-year-old son, a son that lives in London, and I didn't beat any of my children, but I think the difference is communication. Myself and my wife, especially with my daughters, parented totally different than my parents parented. My kids had an ability to participate in some of the decision making from a very young age. And I think that makes a great difference in determining boundaries. Just to give a quick example, my mother couldn't understand. She lived with me for a couple of years before she passed with my kids. And she couldn't understand why I would give each of my children a choice of breakfast in the morning versus doing it the way she did it. You know, one liked strawberry pancakes, the other one liked blueberry. So I would buy strawberry and blueberry pancakes. And it was easy. You want strawberry, you want blueberry, I get them to eat. In my era, it would have been strawberry pancakes or blueberry pancakes, and you had to eat it or you get smacked over the head. But that doesn't work. The way we were parented, I don't think was the best way. I think that we spend more time now communicating with our kids, talking to our kids. So when we put the law down, like my daughter, I have a 13-year-old that's turning 40, and she is very independent. I don't think that she's going to be bullied. And so my struggle right now with her is getting her to understand that it's okay to be outspoken, but you can't be rude. And so we don't tolerate rudeness. Sometimes the decision has to go my way because I am the parent. Even though I give you some latitude, that doesn't mean that you get to make the decision. So you want to wear a particular shoe today, and I don't think you should wear that shoe either because of the weather or just that I don't think you should wear that shoe. You're going to wear the shoe I want you to wear because I am the parent. Some of us, I think, fall into a trap of trying to be our kids' friends, where you want to have a relationship where your kids like you. My kids don't have to like me, they have to respect me. And so I think that that's the new norm of discipline or consequence. So consequence means you lose all your electronics, right? Because we've spoiled our kids. They've got cell phones, they've got iPads, they've got, you know, headphones. They've got all of the bells and whistles that we didn't grow up having. You know, we had one radio in the house and everybody sat around the radio and listened to the radio, or you had 1 or 2 TVs in the house and everybody watched that one TV. And if your dad was watching a program, you watched what your dad was watching, or you went and read a book. So that's where the discipline comes in. And I think that's how I discipline my children. I take away the things that are important to them. take away their electronics, ban them from using social media. You know, you can't go on social media unless I have access to your account and I can follow you on your account. You know, because I need to know at any given time what your communications are, what you're doing on social media, right? And so,
how many
go ahead.
parents do you think are actually monitoring their children's phone or iPad or PC?
But that's the parents' responsibility.
But do you think that
Some
a lot of parents are just, it's over their head?
some parents don't. Some parents don't even have a clue, like you said, or someone said earlier. They know all of their friends. I mean, I talk to my kids and my wife more because they're daughters, but we have conversations about what's going on in their lives, what's going on with their friends. You know, the dramas of teenagehood. My daughters are both teenagers, right? I have told my wife, when it comes to dating, at a certain point, I will take the lead because my wife can't teach my daughters how to deal with men because she's got no clue. She's got no clue where we're coming from. She can't give my daughters any advice as to how to deal with men, other than from a girl's perspective. And as you know, we're much more devious than girls could even imagine. So that advice has to come from me. Likewise with my son, and this was something that was beneficial to me, that taught me how to respect women, because my male friends and my male cousins, they weren't giving me that information. But she would sit me down as a woman and talk to me about stuff that I did or conversations that she might have overheard me having with my girlfriend, and speak to me from a woman's perspective as to how she would reflect and feel about what I said. And I started reflecting and seeing things from a woman's point of view that my guy friends could never teach me. My father couldn't teach me that because he wasn't a woman.
No, I hear you. Do you think that some parents have the authority? Like, for example, you was talking about restricting certain children's devices. I mean, my children, I've bought them all three an iPad, but their iPad, they only use their iPad between 6 and 7 in the evenings, and to qualify to get to use the iPad, they have to tidy their bed. Well, they know exactly what they've got to do. They've got to tidy their bedroom, and between 6 and 7 is get their clothes ready for bath time, and then they've got 1 hour of screen time, and that is it. Now, if they do anything untoward during the day, then I just ban that individual, whether or not it be my daughter or my son, for that hour. So there are consequences, and it is followed through. So far, because they are so young, I have got the quote-unquote power over them. But it's when they reach 13, 14, 15, I'm thinking, wow, will my my discipline that I've got with them now, will it be as strong as they get to their mid-teenagers? I don't know.
I think it will if you continue along the same line. So they're going to get a little bit more latitude, right? Because they're a little bit more older. But you have to determine as the parent, and it's not, and I think it's not determining this is what it's going to be without explanation. We give explanation as, like, for instance, we can track and see how much time my daughters have been on TikTok or on Instagram. The system tells you how many hours you spend on the system. They're a little bit older. My daughter does TikTok videos and stuff, so she's got a little bit more latitude, but we still check to see if she's spending too much time on social media. Now, granted, they're both 4.0 GPA students, so their grades are not affected. But if their grades start to get affected, then those things go away.
Okay, wait.
And
Yeah, wait. Sorry to interject there. Can I just ask you? Obviously, you're in California. Now, I don't know California as to the racial percentage and the diversity in California, but what do you think about black on black killing in your area in California? Obviously, California is a hell of a large place, and it depends on what part. But is there an issue in California?
it's not as bad. So I live about 50 miles, 60 miles east of Los Angeles. So I mean, like, I'm driving back from Los Angeles, California, to my community where I live.
Are you actually driving right now?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't realize.
Yeah, I'm driving and got my phone in my holder as I drive. But yeah, so
I mean in Los Angeles, which I presume is going to be, is that more of a cultural mix?
yes. So you have a predominant amount of, I mean, for instance, South Central California, which is the part of California that most people see in the movies that was featured, Compton, South Central, Watts. You've got a diverse mixture of African American and Latinos, with whites and others, right?
Mm.
But the gang violence in the 80s, per se, I came to California in the 90s. But in the 80s, when my brother and my mom and them were here, gun violence was prominent, right? Drive-by shootings were an everyday, every week occurrence. You don't hear about as many drive-by shootings now in California as you used to. You don't hear about as many gun violent shootings, black and black crime, Crips against blood shootings and killings like you used to in the 80s and 90s. But that could be a cross section of the crack drug epidemic is not as prominent as it was back in those days. I'm not saying that drugs is still not a problem, but I'm saying that I don't think that the crack and the crack cocaine and that epidemic that existed in the 80s and 90s is as prevalent today as it was back then. But I think that black on black crime is committed because you kill what's most close to you. There are communities in America where the black population, especially in what's called the ghettos or the hood or the low income housing communities, where they live and operate together in that small space. If you understand what I mean. It's like, for instance, there are people, when I lived in New York, there are people that I met that had never gone to Brooklyn, that lived in the Bronx. Now you're talking about an hour drive maybe across the river, but they've never left the Bronx and gone to Brooklyn. There are people that lived in Harlem that never went to Queens. So if you stay in your community, then when you have conflict, your conflict is going to be with the people in your community, and the killing and the crime is going to be against people in your community. And that's one of the reasons why you have black on black crime. But it's no different. It's no different than, those communities that are predominantly white, that will fight and kill each other also.
Yeah, so you believe that it may be a narrative against the black community?
Yeah, I think part of it is that we're not taught through society, through police violence against black people, through the way that we've been treated by other communities. We've not been taught to respect ourselves and each other's life. I mean, like, okay, look back at Tupac. Look back, Tupac is my favorite rap singer. Tupac was the one that brought me over to rap. I'm from the Caribbean, so reggae and
Talking
soca
about that, when talking about that, you're from the Caribbean. Could you please clarify? Because I'm not too sure if you're aware, you're driving, but there was a big debate as to where you're originally from. Could you please clarify that for us?
I'm from Guyana.
That's what. Yeah,
So I'm actually not from the Caribbean. I'm from the South America, but we associate with the Caribbean countries because we were the only British colony in the South America.
Okay.
But I'm from Guyana.
Cool. No worries. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
So look, I mean, why do young black men talk about dying as if it was no problem? Like Tupac expected to die young. That should not be a life expectancy. You should not be at 22, 23 years glorifying the fact that you may not make it for 30. Right? So the lack of the value of your life or someone else's life, it becomes easy to either be killed or kill. I didn't grow up in a society where I didn't expect to live until I was an old man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Actually, let me just mute. Okay. Cool.
So
yeah, continue. Yeah. So you're just changing the subject. You're obviously on the move. Where are you going from, and where are you going to?
I'm coming from LA. I'm a real estate agent, so I just came from a listing appointment in LA, and I am heading to do my daddy duties to pick my daughter up from school at 2:30.
So it's 2:20 in the afternoon.
Yeah, 2:21. Yeah, 2:21 in the
2:21.
afternoon.
Excellent. Well, sir, I will let you get on your way. I'd like to thank you for your contribution this evening, again, and no doubt we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate. I like the topics that you've been pulling so far, and I will participate as often as I can.
Yeah, not a problem. All the way from California. Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon.
All right, buddy.
Nice. There you go, live from California. What's going on here? Stop sharing the poll. The poll that you've seen was launched by Alison. I think she's going to do a fun poll at some stage. Right, I think we are about to wrap up. Seymour, good evening. Seymour says, good input, Wayne. I can't see Denise. Jenny said, oh, there she is. Aha. Denise, I will let you go into the chat. I was about to pull one or two things out the chat. I'll let you go in. You could pull out a couple.
All right. Let's go to Elridge. He believes in monitoring, and that includes the mobile and computer. So there's been a lot of chat about parenting, sorry. And Brian said, I mentioned neurodiversity, which is overlooked in many things regarding parenting and adulthood. My wife wrote an amazing book based around 25 Black dyslexia stories. Blessed. And he's left a link, and it's there in the chat if anybody's interested in that. There's a lot more. Should we use the same varied discipline that we had? Look, we didn't turn out bad. Why fix something that is not broken? And I think that was Sean. Emmanuel spoke about just 2 words, horizontal violence. I'm not sure if he wanted to come on and explain that, Emmanuel, if you wanted to bring him on. Also,
Okay.
Sean says that men and women can be very devious. I don't think one is more devious than the other. You have good and bad. Not all men are devious and not all women are devious. So just family dynamics, parenting. Nana says the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. There are children having children in our so-called community. And Elridge says discipline has not been removed. It is parents' understanding that is incorrect. And Seymour mentioned that Wayne had some very good input as well.
And I'm going to leave the last word with you. So you've read everybody else's comment. What have you got to say about this evening's topic on black killing?
Well, it was a very robust conversation. I think I was very, very inspired by the chat and the commitment of the people, the individuals on the platform to the matter. There are some very outstanding people in the community there doing some great work. And I think that they should be acknowledged. I am all for somehow getting together a directory. Allison seemed to have a lot of knowledge with respect to a lot of the agencies there doing work. And I think that that is something that we need to take up and get it done. I want to encourage in the conversation is to just follow the data. We've come up with all kinds of reasons why we think violence is happening. But there is data that indicates what's happening and why it's happening. And these organizations that are coming up and budding are a direct response to some of the data that we've been finding all around the world, pretty much. So whether you're in Canada, the UK, Australia, pretty much, you know, we're now finding Black organizations, the community coming together to look at these issues, discuss these issues, and look at ways to triage them. And I think this is a wonderful start. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Excellent. And we're going to see you, well, we don't know when, we're going to schedule it in, but you are going to be part of the mental health panel. I'm talking to two other young ladies like yourself. I emphasize the word young. You look young, put it that way. You feel young, you look young. I'm talking to two other ladies who are potentially want to be on that same panel regarding mental health. So that will be, well, I would like to think in 2 weeks' time, but let's wait and see how it goes, and we'll put that together, get the flyer out, and increase the capacity beyond 100 going forward. So we'll see you then, Denise. Thank you very much for your input this evening.
Thank you. I put the details as well in the chat for supporting the platform. And I just had a thought. If everybody gave like £2, that would be a wonderful thing to keep the platform going. And
well, yeah.
More
I mean, ironically, I keep saying it again, ironically, that the platform has been impacted this evening by the capacity only being 100, but that was an oversight. Like I said, I didn't want to spend too much money on increasing the capacity, and we don't have over 100 people. Well, quite clearly, the last 3 weeks, we clearly need it over. See, the thing about with Zoom is that you have a capacity of 100, and then the next level is not 2 or 3 or 4, it's 500. So they jump from 1 to 500 with an extra 40 odd pounds or something on top. It is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. But we continue once again, as Denise said, your donations are absolutely paramount, because at the moment the BPM has £328 before the start of this show. The minute we get down to zero, then I have to make a decision. Do I then go into my pocket to supplement it Well, I can tell you right now, it's not going to happen because the cost of living is impacting my house tremendously. Can you realise? I've just seen my electric bill. I'm paying 400. In fact, what are you paying for your electric bill a month? I'm paying £400 a month. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I'm paying £400 a month electric. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yes. Trust me, it's a shock to me also. But anyway, that's the cost of living. That's another potential. Sharon says she's paying 155. My washing machine is on 247.com. The dryer is on. The heating is on. Nicola says £300 plus. It's trust me, it's no joking. Possibly that's another potential subject. For the BPM, another potential subject is prostate cancer, breast cancer awareness, obviously mental health. Another potential subject is interracial dating. That's another potential subject. There's quite a few on the agenda. There's quite a few on the table. If you feel as though there should be another subject on the table for consideration, again, just message me, email me, WhatsApp me, let me know. But for now, this evening, we're going to close the recording for the YouTube. This will go out on YouTube in literally a matter of hours. We're going to stay online. We're going to play music for about a quarter of an hour or so. But for now, regarding the actual recording, we say good night to one and all.